Since the morning after Horde Night, my alcoholism had been miraculously cured. This was completely unacceptable to me, so I went out with the intention of stealing and drinking several bottles of wine and beer. Thankfully, Trader Rect was barely good enough to leave some behind after dying a horrible death. This party girl wanted to party, but I simply wasn't in the mood. But my mojo had returned to my brain after chugging some good quality Shiraz. My brain was drunk enough to start functioning again. This bottle of schnapps was made of 100% atoms, 75% of which were made entirely of alcohol. The forest biome had its own Tier 4 gas station, and I was haunted again by the presence of this feral tourist. I feel like this exact scenario has happened before. I now fully understood the danger I was in every time I encountered one of these feral heavy zombies. Feral bikers, tourists, lumberjacks, and mutated zombies were meant to be taken very seriously. But if I wanted to make a joke out of this non-joke mod, I needed some armor, real armor, and also a real shotgun. But crafting armor wasn't going to be good enough. I needed the armor and the shotgun to be an extremely high quality, but the Horde would not attempt to murder me for another 7 days. I had 7 days to live before I was required to die again. I could be relaxed, and I relaxed by trying out the sledgehammer. I do get a certain amount of satisfaction from slamming a heavy sledgehammer straight through a human skull. But that satisfaction is derived from me being a completely broken human being. I was now at the point where the infamous blue-eyed zombies were starting to spawn in POIs. I gave myself an advantage by electrocuting him and applied Newtonian physics to his skull. But I did feel bad killing this feral burnt zombie because all he wanted to do was give me loot. It hadn't occurred to my mind before that maybe the zombies that had loot bags were simply trying to hand their treasure to me. But I had to do my good deed for the day. I rendered my emergency services to these zombies that were caught behind this extremely heavy car. Volume 5 of Urban Combat gave me permission to enter the wasteland. Not detonating landmines when stepping on them would be extremely healthy for future wasteland excursions. My back had snapped in half when I hauled these large rocks to my new functioning cement mixer. And now that I was churning out concrete, I had the industrial might of a small communist nation. Even the forge was capable of producing real, non-fake steel. And even though I broke my back doing hard labor, I was still lazy. I only farmed enough steel to make what I needed, and even though I didn't necessarily like mining, it was never a waste of time. Mining gave me strength, and strength gave me plus damage to clubs and shotguns, and also added to my carry weight. Mining is also extremely powerful in the mid-game, because you get rocks. Rocks are crushed into smaller rocks, and those smaller rocks are then mashed into concrete mix, and concrete is then constructed into blocks. The purpose of rocks is to agitate the Horde. Imagine being a zombie, your victim is standing right in front of you, but you are separated by a singular block made of concrete. The only way you can get to your victim is to bash your head continuously against the block. The mental agony was surely brutal for the zombies, but that was the point. And it gets even better with steel, and even more better with Inconel. But now it was the next morning, and it was finally time for me to clear this Tier 4 that's been sitting outside of my house, staring at me. Sometimes these bottles are incredibly elusive for no reason at all. I was sitting here mashing my interact key. I can't imagine anything productive ever came out of these camps. The purpose of these camps was clear to me, and it was evil. The camps were clearly set up with the sole purpose of zombifying the population. This zombification would be necessary so that I could one day break in, mash everybody's heads, and take everybody's stuff. This was clearly evil, and I was all about it. It's all fun and games until a feral soldier starts running at you. I turned around and wanted to leave forever, but I had to resolve my conflicts in a somewhat reasonable way. I'm very happy these zombie soldiers don't carry rifles on them. Things were quiet now, but I knew better. The video game required me to stand in a very certain spot. And now I pissed off everybody successfully. I'll be totally honest, it was a little refreshing to do a Tier 4 POI without getting chased out by several radioactive zombies. And while I am an avid enjoyer of raw, stupid chaos, Sometimes I just want to shut my brain off and just risk my life in a more casual way. Sort of like going to the beach, or shooting dead people in a military camp for therapy. I swear I find every single gun part except shotgun parts. The forest biome was still giving me great quality loot, but the forest is for learning and not circumventing progress with overpowered loot. Speaking of learning, I returned to that weird house that's also outside of my weird house that I live in. The zombies generously offered their heads, and I continued my education by stealing their books. I started getting major deja vu. The zombies kept challenging me to stupid contests. And yes, reality was repeating itself, but that was by my own design. Sometimes it's okay to take a few steps back. Retracing steps can show how far I've really come since I was here last time. I'm definitely coming farther along with my sledgehammers. I had already reached level 10, which removes all penalties. Now I could be considered happy and healthy when using this weapon. I was even happier and healthier after killing this bastard feral mutant. I broke into this house expecting to be assaulted by Macaulay Culkin, but I had to play both the robber and Home Alone since, the apocalypse happened. And I just remembered you can tear these radiators straight out of the wall with your bare hands. Great source of bullet casings. Oh look, I found the Home Alone kid. But progressing through the game isn't just about upgrading your gear and armor. Your survival is also about being able to recognize when a trap is being set for you. These bastard zombies thought they could hide through a locked door. The idea of an empty room may sometimes be open to interpretation, especially when you know there's a dog hiding behind a wall. I spent the day speed looting all the little POIs in the forest biome. Sometimes it's good to just take a casual stroll down the forest. Complete annihilation with limited resistance can be very therapeutic. Apparently, there used to be pirates before the apocalypse happened, because why else would there be more buried treasure? Or maybe I'm the weird one for not burying my stuff. Nobody's alive to tell me otherwise. But the special thing about treasure is that it's treasure, and sometimes treasure can contain some real goodies, such as the compass schematic. I could now make a compass. In my drunken state, I celebrated loudly. I celebrated so loudly that I attracted the attention of a large pack of those weird little mud zombies. I seriously don't have the first clue what those mud zombies are supposed to be. Why are they little? Are they supposed to be kids or something? All this thinking was hurting my brain, and thinking is the primary reason why I chose the alcoholic class. But I was getting too fat and too heavy, which is a completely average experience for living in the United States. And I was tired of being lost all the time. After crafting the compass, my plan was to smash it into my brain so I could permanently see which direction I'm heading forever. Afterwards, I would only need a wristwatch, and then my eyes could finally rest from staring at the sun all day. Today was a good day. Being able to tell which direction I'm going would also put a stop to me spamming my map to see which direction I was going. Except there had been a change. The mod was now designed for me to use the compass like a normal human being. I had to hold it in my hand and use it as intended. I blamed this biker for my misfortune, but I felt better because no amount of directional assistance could ever help me from being lost anyway. But what I really needed was a vehicle plow or some kind of tool to instantly remove these trees from the forest biome. These bastards are worse than the wasteland is in the base game. But after crashing my motorcycle into several trees, I had found a new entrance into the Siberian biome. Crafting the best shotgun in the game was going to require a staggering 25 shotgun parts. I had high hopes for the Siberian pig factory, however, but not even the best weapon could help the unenlightened mind from attracting millions of zombies after discharging an unsilenced rifle. And what makes this pig factory special is the enormous green pig that is also apparently a zombie. I used strategy and cheese tactics to activate the boss fight. Grace had the advantage of size, but size was also the disadvantage. But my soul had left my body when she climbed the goddamn roof. I've never seen that before in my life, and I never ran faster in my life. But a few badly placed headshots was enough to put her down. Giving Grace a fair fight would have given me a fast pass to dying to death. But I did feel a little bad since apparently Grace was actively educating herself with these magazines. And apparently, she was also armed. The Queen Zombie Pig apparently believed in the Second Amendment, but I took a great pleasure in scrapping her shotgun down to a singular part. And she had a steel axe, a sign of good health for the loot. A sign of good health is also bashing a police car with a pickaxe. The zombie horde apparently had a SWAT team of their own. I wouldn't call this a healthy decision. I wouldn't even call it a wise decision. It was pure, drunken luck that I didn't have a radiated cop spawn on top of me, since even feral cops could probably one-shot me. But I truly was in Siberia when I found a Mosin Nagant, which is the exact opposite of a shotgun, and now the entire neighborhood had woken up. I genuinely have no idea how this mod could be played on Insane Nightmare. I realize these overhaul mods are generally balanced around lower difficulties, but I can't imagine there would be a wide range of solutions for these massive wandering hordes on Nightmare speeds. I found a solution to my steel pickaxe problem by finding another steel pickaxe. And now I was one shotgun part closer to my goal, but the game has a sense of humor. I've never wanted rocket launcher parts in my life. An incredibly large crowd had gathered to gaze at the freak. The freak was me. Behold, the freak who survives using only a medieval weapon. I began the very long task of bashing down every single zombie. But as soon as I killed 50 zombies, 50 more would come to replace them. And now it was time to level the shotgun. My shenanigans had attracted the attention of several ferals inside this custom-made POI. I was on high alert. Custom-made POIs tend to have 50,000 radiated whites living in them, so I had to keep my eyes peeled. Yes, hello 50,000 zombies. Yes, I see you. When you're in the mid-game and you have all the lucky looter books, it's honestly not a bad idea to farm these massive hordes for loot bags. But now, it was time to disassemble these cement mixers for a handsome quantity of forged iron. My motorcycle had gotten into an altercation with the cop car. I had to de-escalate the situation by completely destroying the alarm system. And of course there's nothing good in here. Don't ever search cop cars, they're bad. But it was time for mining, and I mined this safe for its potential in giving me large amounts of shotgun parts. Just kidding, there's absolutely nothing good in here. Don't ever search safes. But I made a crucial discovery when I discovered Trader Hugh's compound. Once, I had made the claim that the unmarked construction loot boxes were great sources of iron, forge ahead, and steel. Trader Hugh is absolutely the best place to go for these crates, and if you can deal with the threat of being evaporated by a singular dire wolf, it's completely worth the risk of coming here. I didn't even know you could get motorized tools in these crates. I duly noted that one. Once again, I experienced the perfectly average American experience and became intensely heavy with weight. But I had every intention of becoming heavier by reverse engineering this forge. But even Siberia could produce its own problems, such as the blue-eyed biker. The whispers were telling me to invest my life savings on NFTs, but I didn't have any life savings, so the whispers had no real effect on me anyway. But now things were getting ugly. The blue-eyed smart zombies will call in other zombies, and that includes other blue-eyed zombies who will call in more zombies. And because this is downtown, I have a non-zero chance of encountering feral cops and tourists. After suffering several lacerations to my neck by a small house cat, I had enough. It was cheese time. I engaged in several more battles because I wasn't finished with disrespecting Trader Hugh's property. My troubles were rewarded with another singular handgun part, an item that is completely unhelpful for crafting shotguns. But Hugh did have a lot of ammo pallets, so I was okay with discharging several bullets. The game had given me several signs that it was time to go home after I finished looting the compound. For one, it was about to be nighttime, and nighttime is scary time. This polar bear was also displeased with my existence, and he's really fast. The garden demanded my attention, and I demanded to stuff these plants into some boiling waters so I could be slightly more hydrated. And sometimes I think, is consuming too much alcohol while holding a firearm perhaps a bit too dangerous? Is it perhaps slightly unhealthy? It can't be any more unhealthy than stepping into my own bastard spike trap. And speaking of health hazards, it was time to craft a chemistry station. I can't think of anything unhealthy about operating chemicals with barely any ventilation inside a cramped attic, but I was determined to crush my body with several crafting mats to get this thing made already. Crafting certain things, such as gunpowder and gasoline, become extremely trivial with the chemistry station. I was going to need the help anyway because I had every intention of wasting as much ammo as possible for the next horde night. I practiced my stealth skills by mining lead in front of 50,000 zombies, and things were fine at first. But my proclivity for violence had gotten the better of me, and I couldn't stand their stupid faces anymore. And besides, I needed to stay violent if I were to assert my dominance over a world literally filled with zombies, because even radioactive zombies were now spawning in the desert. But no amount of violence will ever get me to a point where I can kill dogs without them getting 2 hits on me first. And no amount of brains will ever prevent these zombies from getting stuck behind a 5,000 hit point door when there's a perfectly open door on the other side. But for all my troubles, Jim's gun fortress had adequately compensated me with 6 entire shotgun parts, and this perfectly wooden bench yielded me several iron ingots. Thank you, Jim, for permitting me to loot your very wealthy store. But every action has a reaction. Sooner or later, the world would present a strong reaction to my obnoxious behavior. I never could have guessed this feral tourist was merely distracting me. I was now fighting fucking feral bikers, my worst nightmare. He struck fear into my small brain, even while he was shocked. I took no chances. And even though rifles make short work of the most dangerous zombies, I had thoroughly crapped my pants. I'll just pretend I have dysentery. I found these timed charges, which I believe are the most misunderstood item in the game. It is a common misconception that these were made to open up strongboxes, even though they are wildly inefficient at doing so. Their true function is to convert zombies into a pink mist. I tested this on the weakest zombie possible. Fantastic. And I would be outside of my puny mind if I were to go inside of that hole. These safes are excellent sources of compasses and wristwatch. I desperately wanted the ability to tell time, but that would wait for another day. My motorcycle got into another altercation with the cop car, and no, it's definitely not because this prevents radiated zombies from spawning. I would probably maybe never abuse a mechanic like that, but my abuse of mechanics had earned me the pump shotgun. And don't get me wrong, I love playing with different weapon packs from various mods, and I can't tell you how many hours of my life I've sunk into using the vanilla guns. But for some reason, the pump shotgun seems to have an extra kick to it. It really feels like it's a more efficient killing force, or maybe it's just user error on my part. I'm not really sure what it is, but it really seems like it's just better than my current shotgun, so my brain will be forced to use it going forward. I returned home and found that I was especially close to my goal. I only needed 2 more shotgun parts. For the past 15 seconds, something had been greatly bothering me, however. My home was not being swarmed by 50,000 zombies. The silence was truly deafening, and I was also quite hungry. It was time to bring out the exceptionally nutritious zebra cake, a pastry that had as much nutrients as eating 8 grilled meats for some reason. I satisfied my sweet tooth. It's good to spoil yourself. However, as odd as this sounds, this pastry also had me feeling spicy. Very spicy. The zebra cake's text reads that there was something ominous about it. And while I completely failed to see any correlation between screamer hordes and zebra cakes, the lesson was clear. For every action, there would be consequences. I hoped and prayed that none of these cops were feral. This goddamn feral janitor slammed his fist straight through the back of my head, and now I was angry. It was time to bring out the ordnance. Try that again. Okay, that was fun and all, but she still got a scream off. What I failed to grasp was that the zebra cake had spawned several screamers who would scream in more zombies, and sometimes that would spawn in more screamers who screamed in more zombies. Now I was getting slapped around. The Ferals had completely disrespected my entire skull. The generous amount of food I had been given would be immediately evaporated by all the health damage I've taken. And now I was getting sneak attacked by Ferals once again. I covered my entire face with first aid bandages so I could hide my shame. And ammo was running short very quickly. Much like my younger years, I had put myself in a very tricky situation. If I run upstairs to get more ammo, it's just going to lead them to all my workstations. But I had finally won. The zombie species had officially gone extinct. I had beaten the game forever. I would live in eternal peace. Except there were still a ton of zombies left, but I had enough. Yes, I get it. I spawned a gigantic horde, but things were getting too repetitious. I left to despawn the horde. Mo gave me a minor heart attack, and I swung my axe out of fear. But thankfully, it never matters if Mo is a feral or not. Mo is just Mo, and he is the dumbest zombie. Scary time was approaching fast, but I continued taking my ride around the southern part of this ultra mega city. My motorcycle started another fight with a cop car, but the violence was justified, because cop cars were decent sources of gun parts. And there it was, the final shotgun part I needed to complete my shotgun. It was hard-earned, but I finally had 24 shotgun parts, plus one more after scrapping the pump shotgun. The time was finally here. And yes, the zombie horde did in fact despawn, but now it was time for me to bust out 25 full rolls of duct tape, and I began wrapping every square inch of it onto some steel ingots, several shotgun parts, and a whopping 45 springs that I wrenched out of several beds. Several minutes had passed, and it was here. I now had the firepower of a modern army. This firepower was completely undeserved, but had I gotten what I deserved, I would be a zombie. My obnoxious will to live had propelled me to new heights that would have gotten me several years in a federal penitentiary. And now my next crafting project would involve me putting in some actual effort to making some real steel armor, and I would need to indiscriminately destroy several hundred magazines to get where I needed to be. My workbench was churning out way too much ammunition, and I really should make a second workbench, but I'm entirely too stingy on my iron to do something like that. I make every effort I can to never ever do mining. But now I need to demonstrate the real purpose of a chemistry station. I would not fault anyone for thinking the chem station was only good for gunpowder and gas, but its true power is derived from an extraordinarily modest material that can only be crafted in a chem station: paper. Glue is cheaper to make as well. Glue is needed for paper. Another crucial ingredient is water, and now I could finally harness the true power of a pool filled with unlimited water and a few dead bodies rotting in it. This paper would be bulk crafted, and I would make ink to make unlimited magazine fragments. I also baked some blueberry pies on top of a pile of rocks. These pies were also weirdly nutritious, but they didn't have the side effect of unleashing unspeakable horrors upon the world. Not quite as exciting. My paper production was in full force, but zombies could still do sneak attacks on occasion. But I needed to make sure my shotgun was working properly. The shotgun definitely worked as I hoped it would after mashing 45 mattress springs into it. Now I was feeling extra spicy. I've always had a knack for danger, but I was ready for several servings of extra danger. I would be raiding a custom-made POI. If the game ever decided to launch 50,000 radiated whites at me, I would have adequate firepower to deal with it. The books were calling to me. They whispered and said, "Please destroy me so you can make armor books." I told the zombies I was free food, and they were welcome to eat me. And the rest of the story tells itself. Ah, yes, that's good. Run straight into my shotgun, please. My favorite thing about zombies is their complete lack of regard for their safety. These party girls offered to absorb my shotgun shells, and the shotgun had worked as intended. And this is a weird spot for the loot. These two zombies executed strategy when they placed their heads directly in front of these bookshelves. Thankfully, I had barely enough brainpower to not blast the bookshelves into several pieces. Perhaps I was a little unfair to the custom POIs. The zombie population was generally reasonable, although it was a little high for a tier 2. But that was okay. I was still too scared to do the larger tier 4s and 5s anyway. This was also a custom POI, and it was an Italian restaurant. This place had great taste because it was absolutely full of alcohol. It's like this place was constructed just for me to loot it after the owners died horribly. And I don't know how you enter normally, so I began creating a solution. After causing several scenes that resulted in many casualties, I found a disgustingly overpowered rifle in this completely modest Italian restaurant. It did a whopping 111.5 damage, which made my brain excited. My other rifles only did 80 and 90 damage, but that's because they were more like battle rifles than sniper rifles. Unfortunately, the gun sway would make this thing completely unusable until I got some more levels in rifling. This footage is slightly old, and there has since been a new update that has made improvements to these mechanics. So if this random clip you inexplicably found were to somehow discourage you from trying the mod, just know that there have been some improvements. Hip firing is as good as ever though. But now, I was as drunk as ever, and my workbench began churning out even more ammunition. It was way more ammunition than I ever needed, but it feels special having so much because of how rare ammo generally is. And now that I have a chemistry station, I was going to need a lot of bones. The zombies had transitioned from a threat to a resource. I wasn't going to be short on glue anytime soon, and that's if I ever remembered to harvest them. And technically, you can eat the zombies since hobo stew is made with rotten meat, but I'm generally too stupid and too lazy to carry rotten flesh around. I've never needed it, because my home has built-in farm plots anyway. And I've driven by this haunted house at least 50 times. It was time for me to finally search it. I did what any normal person would do and swung a medieval axe straight into the rotted wood. And these bastard zombies were apparently summoning Satan. Their ritual had failed. I was a poor imitation, but it was more than they deserved. Again, with the bastard rocket launcher parts. I must have found at least 100 of them this playthrough. And what would I even do with the rocket launcher? Launch rockets? I would instantly explode my monkey brain even trying to operate one. But my monkey brain was becoming an exceptional club swinger. I've never seen a triple knockdown in my life. I couldn't tell you how I did it, or even what I did to make it happen. I can only tell you why I did it. I opted to rip an entire engine out of this car with my bare hands, and with my back barely supporting me, I stuck the engine back to my motorcycle. Drinking an entire bottle of wine and striking cars with an impact driver is a perfectly normal thing to do. I felt better knowing that nobody can judge me when everyone was trying to kill me anyway. One has to wonder what might be behind the sign that says Blood Mooners. Ah, that's good. I've been set on fire and there are several feral zombies coming after me. I'm leaving forever. Even though I had some of the best firearms in the game, I just wasn't at the point where I could stand my ground and gun everything down. And that's okay. I like to have a little fear put into my life. The zombies can kill me just as easily as I can kill them. Fair is fair. I immediately gained an unfair advantage by electrocuting these idiot zombies, because I would be outside of my mind if I gave up Feral Biker any sort of a fair chance. And speaking of unfair advantage, my brain commanded me to immediately take this crossbow. With great firepower comes great responsibility. Earlier, I had made a new ammo type called the 12-gauge Magnum. I responsibly stood in front of this massive zombie crowd and began my weapons testing. The test was incredibly successful. I will absolutely be making more of these Magnum shells. They were more expensive than regular shells, but I was already mass-producing the materials anyway, and they had performed exceptionally well. These would come in great handy for horde nights. But I needed further education on gun safety and armor crafting. Sadly, no amount of education would ever fix my deranged mind, but I had to at least try. These safes are excellent sources of compasses, and just kidding, don't ever search safes, they suck. But I had made great strides in weapons research and engineering since I've started my destructive path. But I was about to achieve my greatest accomplishment ever. I killed a bastard dog without him getting a hit on me. This has to be the world first no-hit dog kill. But my looting and or shooting had attracted the attention of these bastard blue-eyed zombies that kept whispering things into my ear. The whispers were telling me I should donate my organs for science, but I had already trashed my organs with my raging alcoholism, so the voices had no real effect. But now I had gained several levels in my gun skills. With such a high zombie population, I can be assured that I'll never be shy of any experience in this mod. And once again, I was grateful for the pirates that apparently existed before the apocalypse, because I had once again located some buried treasure. And the treasure provided me with the lockpick schematic. Now I could mass produce lockpicks. I had the honor of breaking 20 lockpicks on every single lockbox and getting mad about it. But alas, the day was ending, and I spent the rest of my day playing reverse mailman and marking traders and crackabooks on my map in this new town. And the day ended with every single literature fragment going into armor crafting. 3 fragments per magazine was very painful when I considered how many armor magazines I had scrapped beforehand. Next time I do a playthrough, I will make sure to never scrap armor magazines again, because I usually play this on lower difficulty settings. I never felt the need to craft absurd levels of steel armor. But things have a way of changing when the zombies become their worst. And I ended the day like I always do, by getting extremely drunk while handling volatile chemicals at the chemical station. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and if you enjoyed the video, consider leaving it a like and subscribing to the channel. I appreciate the support, and I will see you guys on the next one. Take care.